talking about the cost of things to repair. We just recently, because we are trying to keep up, we're doing the needed things and so on. We put in a new hot water heater in this building. Last year it was $6,000 the hot water heater. It's not like the hot water heater in your house. When you're heating water to spread to the whole building, you have to have a commercial level boiler, and so it's a little different situation than your house.
Feasible to get this out of the way, or will the responsible purchaser be able to move any
I
portion
think
of
we
it?
would eliminate this.
Okay,
Yes,
so that's
yes.
probably going to stay in our budget.
Yes, and the good news is that the new building could be built and it could be separated while this is still being used. So our children wouldn't have to be moved to another building. They could stay here. They've talked about putting a barrier across the end down there. Now there'd be some playground restrictions. They'd probably have to use some of the grassy areas this way for playground stuff. But they could build it, and then once that's all built, move everyone in, then they would demolish this, and then this site would be renovated, and then this would become playground and play fields. Yeah. All right. Anything else about this building? We're getting shorter on daylight. I know some people had to leave. They told us they would be, and so we'll just continue on from here. This building has 20 exterior doors. 2 of them here, and when you go around the building, there are 20 different points of entry. Our Board of Education has always been willing to allow the community to use our buildings and so on, especially the gymnasiums and the cafeteria and things like that. And over time, keys get out there and they get lost and they get found and, and they get copied and all those kinds of things. And we do have quite a few issues with multiple keys out and so on. You can say, well, all you got to do is rekey the building. Well, certainly that's a possible thing, but when you rekey, 6 months later, there's probably some issues going on. And to rekey a building of this size and so on, with the square footage or the number of entry doors and all that, it gets to be very expensive. We do rekeying as we need. We replace locks and things like that, but security is an issue here. People can come in this door and so on, but and the office is right here, so that's great, but even so, it's not a lot of visibility through the small panels of glass here in the door and so on to know when people enter the building. And if they come in down at the other end or over in the next hallway and so on, you have no idea that they're here. And so one of the things that we would do would be to look to install a card, like a keyless entry type system throughout this building that would have like a proximity card or a scan card for those that need to be here. They would have that, and you would control that all over the computer system. And right now our athletic director takes charge of the facilities, and she signs out the buildings and so on, and they give out keys. Well, what they would do in that situation, she just quickly hit the computer and program it so that this particular card would work on this entry door at such and such a time, and then when that doesn't match up and they come to try to get in, and they don't get in that way. So that would be wonderful. That would be one of the best things we could do. Very expensive to get that accomplished, but that's one of the remodel type things, one of the upgrade things that we'd like to do in this building. Right along those same lines, we talked about putting in, again, you've got the entryway with no airlock vestibules or anything here to cut down on the air. This is like a wind tunnel in the morning with kids coming through, and it's difficult to heat. We also would funnel them through the office area with a little bit of maybe a partition here and so on, and sending them through so that anybody entering the building would have to pass through that way. Maybe not the children, there'd probably be doors here too. Maybe the students, when they come in the morning, there'd be somebody monitoring and they would just be able to come through. But then at a certain point in time when school starts, and those doors would be locked, and any visitors coming in during the day or anything would need to pass through the office so that we're aware they're in the building. So, tremendous security thing. The other thing is, in this day and age, video surveillance is a big, big issue. And you could put a couple cameras, one at each end of this hallway, and cover a whole lot of area, and that would also help with security at night and during the day. If some of the things that do happen in the hallways and so on would be recorded and could be watched to see what was happening. So that's one of the things there. So this is a big point in this building is security. Let's see. Building is issues in the gymnasium with the bleachers. The bleachers were put in, those are originals, 1966, and if you are aware of our gym that has balconies and so on, there are railings up there, those would not meet code today. You cannot have bleachers and so on. If you've been to the football stadium about 10 years ago maybe, Albert,
Yeah.
our guys went through and they put additional wood in the bleachers out there so that you have no more than a 4-inch gap, so that children climbing whatever on the bleachers, 4-inch gap is the maximum. The railings in our balconies, the top is about here and there's one in between. And we have people go from the bottom level to the top level, we have people sit on the top with their feet dangling over, and all those kinds of things. We recently installed some hand
Rails.
yeah, they're rails. I think I was being all the way straight up, but they're little, P-shaped hand grips up some of the aisles and so on in the bleachers, because some of our older folks, and I'm getting there now, so I understand why they have those, can access the bleachers and so on. Also in that area, our gym is in need of painting. We've got lots of neat state championship pictures and all of the banners and things up there, but in behind those, we need to have some painting done. We do not have wonderfully handicap accessible showers in our shower room. There's terrazzo floor in our locker rooms like this, and at one point in time there was a curb this high that you stepped over to get into the shower room. That's still visible on one end, and the other end has been cut down, but it's still about a ½ inch or so that you couldn't cut tight to the floor. So there's still a lip there. It's truly not handicap accessible. The partitions and so on in there, if you think about a boys' locker room, okay, high school boys, sweaty, sports, not caring about some of the facilities they're using and so on, and you put 44 years on that, some of the partitions and things are showing their age. So it's some of the lockers in that locker room, we've got a couple with doors off, and again, when they're 44 years old, you go to try to replace that door, you're not going to match it. You're not going to match it. So there are issues with lockers. At Corridor, though it met standards and so on when it was built, it no longer meets the standards because that hallway, the end of that, it's a dead-end corridor. It actually opens up into the loading dock out there. And the loading dock is being used pretty much for storage area because of our maintenance building out back now. If we have a semi or something unloaded, and others have some storage out there, they come out there instead of using the loading dock. But that's against fire code at this point in time. The other thing that you'll see is all of these interior walls and so on right now have all these glass panels above. And one of the things about those is those are no longer acceptable either because the fire rating isn't sufficient. You'll see in places where there are even some little gaps here and there in the corners and things like that. So that's what they're telling us. And then the other thing is that I think Rick or John mentioned earlier that when you begin doing remodeling, if you do a certain percentage of that building, then you've got to bring everything up to present day code. So that adds a lot to the cost of the process. Here, our library carpeting is worse, much worse than the Anderson carpeting that you saw in terms of the delamination and so on. That needs to be addressed. The electrical is not necessarily up to code there. Our heating in this building is an issue for us because our unit ventilators in the classrooms and so on are, again, 44 years old. They're getting very hard to repair. When we have to replace a coil or something in those, it's almost impossible to get them. A few $1,000s, and they're ordered from California, and we're lucky if we can get a new coil. So there's some of those kinds of things that we're dealing with. There are not a lot of individual controls. When you talk about institutional heating, it's so different than your home, because in your home you have a control that may control this level of the house, but here we've got a control that might control 4 or 6 classrooms, and some of those might have an exposure to sunlight, and they heat up, and the others are not, and so you have quite a discrepancy from one room to another. So that's something else that's not in the best shape as the management system